fear of failure is temporary. You try something, you fail, okay? You learn from it. When it comes to regret, it's usually permanent.
You can go to your grave with that kind of regret. Oh, I didn't take action when I was supposed to do.
It's better to try and fail than to regret not trying in your later years.
How do you distinguish between healthy fear and unhealthy fear?
Fear of failure is a young person's game. Fear of regret impacts the older people. Most people are only successful because they want to prove to someone else.
Yeah.
They want everyone to admire you.
Fear of failure is always immediate and very loud. It tells you, oh, you get embarrassed.
Story of Christ. He got crucified for performing miracles. People didn't like him because he was helping people. So who are you to now worry about other people?
Hello, welcome back to the show. Today we have a very interesting topic. We'll be talking about fear of regret versus fear of failure. So, and we'll be looking at the advantages, the disadvantages from our own perspective, because we are by no means experts in this matter. And we'll be looking at different aspects of fear as it relates to those two factors and how it affects our lives. So let me start with the first question. From your point of view, how would you define fear of regret versus fear of failure?
Well, that's an interesting question, right? Fear of failure is the fear to do something, the fear to launch, right? Regret is a fear, it's another type of fear, right? Of not doing something. So you have the fear like to initiate, to start something. Rejection. I'm afraid people would judge me. I'm afraid I'll be embarrassed that, that's fear. Those are the things that kind of get you into that space. And regret is I should have, I could have, but I didn't. You're right. So fear of failure is temporary. Failure is temporary. You try something, you fail. Okay. You learn from it, right? From there, if you are the type of person who learns from your misfortunes or, failures, you become wiser. Next time you adapt, like, oh, maybe I need to tweak things here and there. When it comes to regret, it's usually permanent. If I had invested, $1,000 into Apple stock when it first came out, 15 years later or, 10 years later, I would have made X, Y, and Z. And now I blew that part in my 20s. I could be worth, 5 million now. That 1,000 or something could have, I would have spent it regardless somehow if I had invested in the right company at the time. That regret stays with you because it also makes you not appreciate or trust your own judgment, right? So it's an interesting thing because it's better to try and fail than to regret not trying in your later years. So that's my take on that.
Just to rebuttal a little bit, I don't think this is a rebuttal, but you said the fear of failure is temporary. But don't you think it's kind of spirals sometimes?
Well, so I'm afraid of trying something new. I'm afraid of moving to another city because I don't think I'll succeed, right? If you really think about it logically and you have a good plan, that will start to disintegrate that belief system. Fear is a belief, right? And if you can get past that, wherever those beliefs are that are holding you back, you realize your fear of failure doesn't really exist in most cases. It's a scenario you've made up in your head and then you project it outwards and be like, if I move to, a small town, I'm not going to get opportunities. My business is going to suck. It could be true, but unless you actually think about it logically, you don't really know if that's, you don't have evidence backing up your reasoning. Whereas regret, you really have, you don't take an action, an inaction or the wrong action kind of haunts you for a longer period of time. Now, the fear of failure could lead to fear of regret as well, right? You decide not to take an action, and then you regret that action 5 years, 10 years, but oftentimes your fear of failure can be resolved when you think about it and you plan, so that's my taking.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I'm doing timing report. But he also asked the second time when he said, "Don't use things you can, or transmit it or translate, or I don't know the word he used." But for me, I think fear of failure is always for like everything we've done. Fear of failure is always immediate and very loud in our head. That's what just comes first. It's very, very loud. It tells you, oh, you get embarrassed if you fail. It tells you, but it most of the time it proves that what you're thinking about the failure, you just prove what you're thinking right. Sometimes that's what it does to it. And I see why you said temporary. That's why I said I'll comment there. It's something. Failure doesn't mean that the end of life or everything you're doing, or that you can't get it right. So I see where you say it's temporary, because you can quickly wake up and know that, failure was maybe lack of proper learning, proper preparation, and that also you learn from it similar as well, so that you don't make the same mistake when you're trying the second time. So I see how it can be temporary, but it can also lead to the fear of regret. Yes, and that's where you ask that question that, don't you think it can spiral into something worse, which is going to be the regrets, because when you're trapped in that fear of failure, you do not take any necessary action to even correct what you think you feel. And you keep, sounding the drum of, the cue that comes from favor. Yeah. Which is embarrassment, can be, however long or whatever you can imagine that the punishment of failure can be to you. So it can, when you're trapped in that thought process, you don't take any action, or you're even taking actions that's going to be disservice to you, and so when it gets very chronic, it will definitely in the end translate to the fear of regret. Can't say that's all I'll say.
Yeah, just to add to what you said, for me, I'd say a fear of failing basically kind of depends on what information you think you have available at that point in time, the information you're working with. Because a very good instance is, let's say, like you use the analysis of stocks now. Let's say you hear this new stock that just came out. So we don't know how it's going to blow up in the next few years. And because there are so many people who are talking about it or are not talking about it. But now you like compare, okay, is this thing the hot thing in town right now? Is this? So it kind of helps you shape your decision making and everything. So I think it's all depends on the information you have at hand at that point in time to determine if you're going to like actually act on certain decisions. So it brings me to the question of the fear of failing. Do you think it's being overestimated in the broader term compared to the long-term regrets being underestimated?
Yeah, definitely. I think because failure is immediate, you can see it when it happens, right? You try, running a business, it fails. When it fails, you see the effects,
See that really.
right? You see it right there. Regret, you often don't see it. It's almost like it plays in the background, but it shapes your decision
Nice.
in, going forward. So if you had a great opportunity to get, let's say somebody offered you a job in Dubai and you turned it down because you were afraid, it's a new different culture. Their culture is so different from mine. I don't think I'm going to survive in that culture. I don't think I'm going to thrive in that culture. I'm not willing to adapt. And then let's say you had friends that went over in, a few years, they did well, they came back, they're more financially stable, right? That failure, you sit in that for a while. It turns into regret, right? You regret not making that move. And then there was another job opportunity in a different part of the world. You may not even look at the whole thing. You may just say there's an opportunity, just jump into it. At first, no planning, no research, and that could turn out to be a disaster, right? Because failure turns into regret long term, right? If you fail at something, you don't learn from it, you're going to most likely regret that decision, and regret keeps you stuck in the past. Because your failures in the past doesn't determine your future.
True.
So once you're stuck in the past, then you haven't learned from it, because you could have learned, wherever lesson it is, and say, next time I'll be a bit more open-minded. But if you don't learn from it, then like next time it happens, I'm just going to do X, Y, and Z because of fear. The whole idea is look, show me somebody successful, and I will tell you they have failed so many times. It's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you're willing to get out.
Yep.
Right. And that's it. The more times you're willing to get up, if you fail 100 times, like they say, you don't need all your business ideas to go big. You need one idea, just one. But we see people, Amazon and all these companies and all these big CEOs out there, wealthy men doing big things, and we're like, oh my God, I want to do the same. But we don't talk about
The failures.
the failures. How many companies they've started and failed miserably, how they've had to probably sleep in a one-bedroom apartment with their partners, maybe even with their kids, how they've been late on the bills, how they've been turned down at job interviews, how we don't talk about people's failures. But you learn more from your failures than you learn from your successes. That's the funniest thing. We as humans, we learn more if we're willing and we're open-minded. We learn more from failing than from succeeding. So the fear of failure is just, it's a psychological drama you play with.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And that's what failure should do to every human to be better next time when you try. So Warren Pro. I think that's the intention of him if he has
Man, you tell me that way yourself. Exactly.
understand. If he has American good way to put it out there. The intention is for you to get better. Because you miss the step, you can review and get better. So I agree with you, Ray. It's recoverable from. So when you fail, you regret failing, and you can recover from that. It's when you're trapped in that process, that's the fear of regret. Fear of failure, and no action is taken, and you're just going round that cycle. Then your regret creeps in, and it creeps in when you think you've lost time, and you didn't take any action, and then. That's where it is. It's always while regrets of failure stinks. The regret of the fear of why the fear of failure stings. The fear of regret is much worse. It's worse, and it lingers for a very long time because that can make you sick.
And it can be permanent too.
Yes, when you think this time has passed. That is the worst where it's like you're being shepherds,
Oh yeah.
and that you can go to your grave with that kind of regret that, oh, I didn't take action, when I was supposed to do, just because I feared that, I would be embarrassed, I will lose from this and that, whatever it comes to your head, that is the reason why you're not taking the action. So, yeah, I agree with all our points, and I think we're gonna. I saw you were already digressing to, the persistence of, after failing, and like you gave an analogy or an example of companies, and we hear about all their wins, but we don't hear.
We don't talk about their losses and, well, sleepless nights.
It's the, I don't know if we should be discussing this today, but I know I'm trying to stay within the home values also topics, and so yes, we learn more from our failures that we know or that we want to agree, and it's just a constant. Whether you're trapped in the fear of it, or that you realize and that this is just a learning process, and I will be getting better in as much as I want to try to take action, when necessary.
I like that because if you look at it, most times the fear of failing or the fear of regret kind of boxes you into not wanting to take certain actions. You're always wanting to play it safe, always wanting to take the safer route, always wanting, but it kind of draws this question of how do you distinguish between healthy fear and unhealthy fear, and how can one recover when someone feels big time, maybe publicly or in a very, very big way, even when it's within closed doors. How can one recover from your perspective, not as an expert?
Yeah. So, for example,
Talking about the healthy and unhealthy then.
so this is how I would break it down. Fear of failure. When is it healthy? When is it unhealthy? I don't think. Well, when it's healthy, when it helps you prepare more for what you're doing. No, because the fear of failure really prevents you from taking actions in most cases, right? In a lot of cases, it prevents you from taking the next step. It prevents you from taking a leap of faith. True. Because a lot of the things we do in life, we take a leap of faith and we hope it works out. But that's life. That's what makes life so sweet and fun, is you're taking a leap of faith. Your relationship, your job, leaving one job for another. You could leave one job for another and get fired the next day. So it's I've seen people that's happened to. So when the fear of failure, it motivates you to prepare for the future, that's healthy. Because you're gathering information to help you better succeed. When fear of failure inhibits you, prevents you from taking a logical step, or going after your dreams, that's unhealthy. I, for one, I don't like talking to people that much. I prefer working from home. So when I started a business, that was hard for me. Knowing what I need to do, and I've helped people run their business successfully. I've done it. People will come to me and say, "This is the issue I'm having." I will help them problem solve. But I don't like going out there and selling product and services to. I don't the human interaction part of it, I want it to be on my own terms. When you own a company, you own a business, it's not really on your terms. It's when the business demands, when there's a client, you have to go meet with your client. So I had to get out of that. What's the worst thing the client is going to tell me? Or potential clients is going to tell me? You're too expensive, or I don't like your services, or you know what? The worst thing, I don't like you, period. Yeah, well, it was. Well, thank you for your time. On to the next.
It can be demoralizing.
But that I had to realize that my fear of failing at not selling because I'm not the most outgoing person, it's psychological. It's not real. When your fear doesn't even, fear of safety. Oh, if I go to a certain area at a certain time, I could die because that's a possibility. That is real. If I'm swimming in a river, there's gonna be a shark in there. But I'll hold up, wait a minute. Like it doesn't work like that. If I'm swimming in a pool, there could be a shark in there. You listen to people's fears sometimes, and you're so shocked because these are some of the smartest people you've met, but their fears are so irrational. They're so cuckoo and out there. You're like, you need help, because oftentimes our fear are psychological, and those are the ones that are most crippling. Because everything is a psychological drama. Oh my God, what if this happened? There was a lady that was talking in a women's group, and one of her biggest fears at night is she's laying down in bed next to her husband, and the ceiling fan is spinning, and she's like, what if the fan comes off and cuts off my hair? It's like, do you know how many things have to be aligned for that fear to actually materialize? It has to spin fast enough. The blade has to be made of the right material. It has to fall at a certain angle, at a certain speed. Everything has to be done to a T.
And you have to be in that position.
You can't move slightly to be decapitated by a fan. And when you think about it, most fans they don't have metal blades. It's like a wooden stuff in the house because it looks prettier because you live in an affluent neighborhood. But in the head, that will keep her up at night. It will never happen. But this is one of our biggest fears at night. So she doesn't get a good night's sleep. That is absurd. But this is what fear does, right? Fear just holds you in a place. And I'll say this, and then I'll let you pick up from where I left off. But fear of failure is a young person's game. Fear of regret impacts the older people. And the reason is quite simple. When you're young, what if they don't like me? What if the world doesn't? What if, because you're still you're trying to please not just yourself, but everyone around you. So what if I fail? Because we as a society believe that if you fail, it's because you're incompetent. Because we celebrate success so much that we think hyper successful people never fail. It's almost like we see them as gods. You have all the answers, and that's so far from the truth. As an older person, you regret all the missed opportunities, all the relationships you let go that you didn't invest in. Those are things that haunt you. Regret is kind of like, it's another way you could use it, haunts you, where failure makes you feel sad, right? You're not happy about it, but regret haunts you for a longer period of time. And it's all here
In the head.
in your head. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. So the real question becomes like, what fear do we have to elicit? So we probably should be asking ourselves, is it the fear that protects us from like short-term pain, or that warns us from long-term emptiness, or fear of missing out, fullness. So long-term emptiness. So what, that's so we're still talking about the fear of the failure and fear of regret. So one, it's just protecting you from short-term pain, and the one is warning you of a long-term emptiness because you get trapped by your fear of failure. You're not going to take any action, and you're empty in the end to regret that you did take those actions you were supposed to take. So I think the balance of both is what we should to be getting into concentration in terms of how we're going to feel in our lives. And say that like I saw your personal example of trying to, be a salesperson. It's not like the fear of not wanting to go there in fear first. We should understand that it's not, most times it's not it can be seen as evil, and it can
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, the connotation.
yes. So whatever you attach to, whatever fear you're going through, is what you get. Very what you feel, and it sometimes is there to protect. It's not always bad. And I think for me, personally, I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, it's what it is, right?
Right. So what I emphasis, yeah. So it wasn't that you could not be a salesperson, and even a perfect good one. It was that all
The fear of rejection.
yes,
I was going to come to that question, but continue.
and the fear of accepting all the limitations you've left in your life. You know, about people, about yourself, and when you accept that, it holds you down. Really hard. We can say it's most time easier said than done.
Yeah.
But bringing this to our, attention all the time can help us navigate life and satisfaction.
You did ask another follow-up question.
Yeah, like
Which
how can
was-
one actually recover for it?
Recover.
But before you answer that, so have you finished? Yeah, I was going to ask. This has to do with like personal experience. Now, have you ever like subconsciously set a standard by which you operate on a daily basis?
Yeah.
And later realized that the standard was set out of fear of failure. And when you now, because sometimes you don't realize that this standard you're trying to adhere to, it's because of you, maybe because you're afraid of something, or you're scared and fear of failure. Now, if at all you actually finally realize that the standard was set due to the fear of failure, how do you hope to overcome it?
That one hits home.
And the second question was, how do if one actually fails big time, either in the public eye or privately, but in a very big way, how can one actually recover from it? That's the second question.
And I think both go hand in hand, because it's fear of failure and and how you recover from it, whether it's big or small, right? In my experience, and this is something that I've had a conversation with my partner, the wifey, and one of the things she told me recently was, you need to be perfect. You have it's ingrained in you that you have to be perfect at everything. So much so that when something doesn't go accordingly, it bothers you, getting in your head, and you spend hours just replaying everything. And it sounds good that you strive for perfection, but if the truth is, if we were perfect, we'll be gods. Period. Right? So there's going to be some level of imperfection, and that's what makes being human fun. That's what makes this journey of life exciting, because we're not perfect. We're always trying to figure it out. If you could see the future, for most people, you will not act on anything, because you're like, well, it's going to happen in 5 years. Why do I need to stress myself now, right? Well, part of the journey is failing, learning, and then you're like, you want to limit that to a certain degree, that you're not just constantly failing, because that also has an adverse effect on the mind. But for me, I'm still working through it, right? I'm still trying to understand that it's okay. Because what ended up happening is, I could have a conversation with you, and based on what you're saying, I'm having sometimes 2 to 5 different conversations with you at the same time. And I'm picking which one, based on your answers, with a direction to go. And sometimes it can be exhausting, right? You're mentally exhausted after some conversations, not because the person is exhausting, because your mind is just always splitting conversations into multiple conversations. In some cases, I'm able to predict what somebody is going to say next or do next. But do I really have to function like that? Not really. The brain is working a lot harder than it needs to. Instead of enjoying the moment, I'm trying to figure out what this person is thinking, and tailor what I'm doing, my responses based on what, it's a lot of moving parts. So when we fail in life, first of all, you have to remember that your failures don't determine, your past doesn't determine your future. Now, your past patterns can, if nothing changes, but your past self is not a reflection of your future, and your mistakes they're not really reflections of who you are at your core. Because oftentimes when we fail, it's because of the information we've gathered from society, from our parents, from everyone, things happen to you that doesn't go your way. You hold a part of that, and it becomes part of who you are and part of your thought process. So when you fail, the question is, are you learning? Those that learn from failures eventually learn to succeed. Anyone that has done anything big, they have failed so many times. But the reason they ended up succeeding, whether in that same venture or something else, is they learn from it. Because it builds resilience. You understand, oh no, this is just a bump in the road. And you keep going. And more bumps, you're like, okay, my car is better now. Because it's like building a car. Every bump should make the car stronger, right? So big, small, sometimes a big failure could require you to apologize publicly. We see them with, people in the spotlights. Sometimes you have to apologize for making a poor decision or not making a good decision. And sometimes it's just look at yourself and reevaluate yourself and say, hey, is this who I am at my core? If it's not, then you change the behavior. But if you don't change the behavior, big or small, it doesn't matter. The cycle continues. It's a revolving and it's a crushing cycle. It never ends. And more failures attached to other failures, and it seems like it's a rolling stone gathers no moss, right? If you keep failing, it's almost like you're grabbing a little bit each time. Now, each failure may not be that big, but eventually it lumps up and becomes something bigger. And eventually regret will creep in, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. So, Chris, thank you for asking this question. And this specific question, because I was reading the book this morning and you was talking about, so I said limitation. I made a word, it's statement limitation. It is, and your question was, how can we bounce back?
Yeah, how can one recover? And if any standards that was set unconsciously based on fear of failure.
Right. So we need, first, I would say we need to be educated. So when I mean education, I'm not talking about formal. Also, we can learn from people, all that people are, and people's experience. We need to be re-educated on this fear thing or the word. I think it's generational. But that does not necessarily mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. You attach what you want to attach to it. So they are good, right? But when I mean generational, it has been there for protection, to fear or something. It was just because we're trying to avoid something. So it is not bad. And it was just how it was being thought 2 generations from history now. Look at a child that is going, the parents will say, don't do that. If not, you're not going to get this. Or you're going to be seen this way. Or everybody's going to see you like a terrorist. So for little growing up, we're always taught limitations. It's always about limitations. It's not about like you can go and do this.
That was going to be my next question.
Right. And it can turn out this way or it can turn out that way. Whatever you're attaching to the experience you get from doing that. It may not feel good and it may also feel exhilarating. Or whatever you attach to the result of the experience is what it is to you. You understand? But we've always thought limitations. You can't go there, you're going to fall. You're going to break your head. Or someone is going to look at you this way. So it has been that way for generation past, and it is still now. So where I said education, we have to re-educate also to understand that. And that's why we can't always blame our parents.
Nah.
We can't, because they are only impacting to the extent to which they know and have inherited. Yeah. So the cycle breaks when you are now more educated. I'm not saying about just your philosophies, the psychology of life, and then you make these changes and you don't transfer that kind of training down to your offsprings, and then that's where change begins, right?
Yeah, someone has to break the cycle.
Someone has to break it. I had to bring it. I like to bring it home. I like to bring it back from like the scratch, where how it started, how it can be corrected. Because the question is also, how do we bounce back with this? We have to also first from ourselves. We know we've learned this limitation from our parents, and they learned it from theirs. But now we know that this can be limited. It can destroy the confidence of your pyramid. That is why, but when you see people who are confident, look at how that person is trained. And if you can find the answer real quickly, if the person maybe was not even trained that way, they educate themselves in a way that they have to do away with what doesn't serve them again, the fear of limitations. Yeah. So they course correct it. So two things: you can learn and try to stop that, or you can have had the opportunity of being trained in that way. Oh, this is it. This is going to be the outcome. Whatever you're attaching to that experience is what you get. It's what we're not saying you don't try it. You understand? But again, there are also people who argue there also has to be guardrails. There also have to be controls. There also has to be check and balances, because somebody can go haywire. Yes, that's why there's fear. It's already there. You can tell a child, don't touch the hot stove. It's going to burn you. You won't be there tomorrow, and the stove is going to be hot, and you may want to try it. Well, when he feels burnt, the pain from being burnt, he already laugh. They say experience is the best teacher.
It is. It's cruel, but it's the best teacher.
And that's how we've always evolved, but we will not agree that when we were even taught limitations, we still tried it. Yeah. And then we saw the reason why. But now, that experience is whatever you want to take from it. Are you learning that now I see why I was told not to touch? Yeah. Or that I want to touch it and become Superman. And who knows? It's true. Yeah. I can want to train myself to not feel,
get good endurance.
yes, themselves. Some people, you see, they say it's magic, they swallow mics and all. It's all training.
Mm-hmm.
The level of fear that person that can do that has is different from the level of fear that someone who will not even fathom to do it. But you see that when you break that fear, when you break the
cycle,
yes, or the bondage that you can put yourself because of fear, you see that the intangibles, the way they are, is what they're attaching. What emotional you're attached to the experience.
Yeah, and you're right. You said something I've always said, which is experience. An experience is an experience, right? What you take from it depends on what you attach to the experience. Because what you think is awful could be great news to someone else. I've heard of people that lost everything. They lost their job, their family, their health. And they went on a spiritual journey and their health got better. They didn't care about money. They were happier. They're like, this is the happiest I've ever been. And had I not lost everything, I would never have been here. Was it painful? Yeah. But what they got out of that is what they've always wanted, but they went about it happened in a way they didn't expect it to happen. The fear of failure is there. For most people, your fear of failure is nothing but a psychological drama that you entertain in your mind, and it's not real. When you break it down logically, it's not real. It won't hurt you physically. And in some cases, fear of failing can motivate you to do better. Do things you couldn't even have imagined in the first place. I can't fail. Then I need to be more prepared for this. I'm writing my ACT. I'm writing with the bar exam. I can't fail because everyone in my family is a lawyer and I'm the last one. And things don't come to me as easy as everyone else. So now you're spending more time in the library. Your friends are like, oh, let's go to the clubs. You're like, I can't because I can't fail. So now it's motivating you. Now you ended up being a better lawyer than everyone else in your family because you've learned to push past your comfort zone. Fear keeps you in your comfort zone. If you're in your comfort zone, you don't grow. It keeps you comfortable, right? You're comfortable. So fear shouldn't be a bad or a good thing. It's what surrounds the fear that should determine whether it's, like you said, is it good? Is it healthy? Is it not unhealthy? Is it unhealthy? And that is based on each scenario is different, and you have to look at it like that. I know you have another question before we close out.
Yeah, it was going to be a closing answer. So I was going to ask this question, but from what you guys have said, I can deduct that you guys would rather fail at a certain thing than regret never doing it or attempting it. So the final question was going to be, and you can, after this, you can wrap up your closing statement. How does the public affect one's like if you're putting fear on the spectrum now, how does the public perspective affect your confidence and your fear, the fear level on the spectrum?
For most people, greatly. It's not even a question. It does. It's for no, because it's no. Think about it this way: when you do stuff, you're always wondering how other people are going to think about it. So when you think about it that way, most people are only successful because they want to prove to someone else. They want everyone to admire them. Most people, when you ask them about their accomplishment, it means nothing to them. Can you imagine somebody that is highly accomplished and you ask them stuff and they're like, yeah, I guess it's good, but this is what I really want. And you're like, what you've accomplished and what you truly want is so far off. All right.
Yeah.
One of the things I've learned, and I'm older now, when I'm like, I remember when I was younger, I was like, oh, everybody wants a Ferrari. You want a Ferrari too. I don't like flashy things, right? And one day I sat down and I said, why? Why do I want a Ferrari? If I have the money, would I buy one? And for what reason? And I realized I didn't like Ferraris. I didn't like fast cars. I like fast cars, but I didn't like Lamborghinis and Ferraris. They weren't really what I wanted. I realized that whole future and vision for myself was to please other people. And I think from that point forward, I'm like, no, I'm going to live my life as it pleases me because I only have one life to live. So I need to live in a way that I'm happy that when I'm in, because when you're older, no one is asking you, did you drive a Ferrari? How was your first time drive? Those things don't matter. You have to concentrate on what matters, right? And I think if you're always trying to please or compete, and this is one thing I see that is so wild, is people are competing with their neighbors and the strangers, and you're trying to compete and impress people that don't care about you. They have their own psychological drama that they're replaying as they're moving along through their journeys of life, that you're trying to compete with them or impress them. What's the point? This is your life. It's your life. You should play by your rules. Obviously playing, not being menace to society, but it's your life. Play by your rules. You will always win your own game. Whether it's in your favor, for most people, they win their games and it's not in their favor. Oh, this person is going to do this to me. My partner is going to cheat on me. And then basically you start doing the things that will cause your partner to drift outside of the relationship. Play your game. You're always going to play your game. Make sure when you win that game, it benefits you. And also maybe benefits those around you. I don't understand at this point in my life. I don't even understand why I'm trying to play speaker. I'm living my life for myself. Like it or not. If you don't like it, that's fine. Last time I remember the greatest story, pretty much one of the greatest stories ever told is the story of Christ. He got crucified for performing miracles. People didn't like him because he was helping people. So who are you to not worry about other people? I mean, no matter what you do, not everyone is going to appreciate, love you, and care about you. So put your focus on those that do. Live your life to the fullest. Make sure that when you're in your 80s and 90s and you're talking about how you've lived your life, there's a smile in your face. That's it's my take on it.
So, like that. That's a good one. And for me personally, I would say they all sound to my body. I always go back to my body, what my values are. So I'm not worried about what people say or what they would think about me. That will hinder me. Like allowing external forces to control how they're gonna lead your life or you're gonna appear tomorrow. What I go back down deep and go practice my values, I cannot compromise my confidence for anything. I don't care how you're gonna say talk about what I've done or act with my life. I believe that God-given fire burns her very, very hard in me and when I'm confident. So I always make sure that I'm not trying to feel wonky because of some things I'm going to hear about and how I've appeared or I've lived my life. My confidence is what I hold there because I can do and accomplish anything when I'm confident. It's just take an instance of you not being confident about it's each other or anything you're trying to do or achieve in life. It doesn't break up. It doesn't because you feel some kind of ickiness, like some kind of weirdness that I don't think I should be doing this. There's lack of confidence and there's
I don't belong here.
yeah, and it's this part of you limiting yourself. The limitations relate this fear of getting looked at some kind of way or talked about some kind of way. And when you hand that to anyone or any person, your confidence, the ability for that to control the how you passionate you are about whatever decision or whatever action they're taking. You've given them all the power you have in this existence. So I don't compromise that, and I try to be inculcate that with my son, my child, and even any of the younger generation, or even all that, because some people don't know this. And you can learn from a little child, you can learn from anybody. So all young, I try to exude confidence when I appear, when I talk. One thing we fear is that we don't know it all. We're not supposed to know it all. We should know what matters. What matters is what coaches should care about. You know what we should know. You're not going to ever know it all. We'll learn till we die. So your confidence is what is you always secure. That all you got. If somebody knows they can't take that from you, then they've got all your power. You enjoy it. That's my personal statement for today.
So you heard it all, and we are no means experts in this matter, but you can pick one or two things from what we've said so far and apply it in your daily life activities. And with that, we'll call it a day. See you again next week. Peace out.